attendees. We're just going to give it a couple more minutes for people to come in. If you'd like to drop in the chat and let us know where you're coming in from, that'd be great. But we'll give it a few more minutes. Thank you. All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Sydney Lockhart. I am an advisory board member from Birthing the Magic. I am going to be your host this evening. Today, in this whole You series, we're going to be talking about nutrition and nourishing the body. Um, but I have the honor of introducing our speaker. Her name is Dr. Andrea Lee, and she is an OBGYN and the co-founder of Enrich Health Maternity Wellness Centers. She has only over 20 years of experience in clinical health, including work with underserved populations in Chicago. She has championed midwifery care and natural approaches to maternal health. She has extensive training in integrative medicine with a focus on caring for the whole person, mind, body, and spirit, which perfectly encompasses a lot of what we'll be talking about in the next 4 weeks. So I would love for Dr. Lee to talk a little bit more about who she is because there's so much incredible work that she has done before we go into this lovely presentation. So, Dr. Lee?
Thanks, Sydney. It's great to have all of you here. I saw one person from Connecticut, which was very exciting. There's probably more, and I saw somebody from Chicago. So I am the co-founder of Enrich Health. It's a maternity wellness center. Um, it just opened in June, but my partner, Dr. Rainford, and I have been working on it for about 3 years now. It is a very innovative approach to kind of preconception all the way through postpartum. And it's innovative because we do the care in groups. So it allows us to really approach pregnancy from a holistic way because it gives us lots of time to educate, it builds community, and we get to teach all about what I call lifestyle medicine, like nutrition, which we're talking about today, and then movement and mindfulness. I have now, when I calculate it, it's probably more than 25 years of practice, mostly in the Chicagoland area, and have been studying and doing training in integrative medicine over the years because it is something that's greatly needed. A lot of people don't know what integrative medicine is, or they have an idea. Really, what it is it's integrating ways of approaching health beyond kind of the Western medicine model, which we're all familiar with. So, really looking at other modalities that work that have been around for thousands of years, like acupuncture, so Chinese medicine or massage, um, energy healing, all these different other ways of helping people heal and bringing people back into balance. So this talk is going to focus on nutrition and let's see if I can move my slides forward. There we go. Um, I'm going to do just a brief overview of gut health because really that is what is critical to overall health, and gut health is dependent on what we bring into our bodies. We're going to talk about foods and we're going to kind of get into the weeds with foods, but I want everybody to keep in mind bigger picture because that's the idea of this. It's really talking about healthy eating, and what does that entail? Um, and then more practical tips as far as healthy eating. So my goal with this talk would be for people to maybe take home one or two things that they feel like, wow, I want to implement that in my day-to-day life. So when we look at nourishment or we look at the word itself, we nourish ourselves with food. But when we look at food, food is more than just this, piece of fruit that we have in our hand. Food is fuel. Food is energy. When I think of food, for me, it's community and connection and culture. Growing up in my grandma's home for holidays and summers, she was Polish, and so food is big in every culture, but it's big in the Polish community, and lots of it. And my grandma and her mother made everything from scratch. They churned their own butter, they broke their own chickens' necks right in the middle of a city in their backyard, and everything was made in the home, and we gathered around food. It's also comfort, like it comforts us emotionally and physically, and it feels safe and it represents love. So, okay, Sydney, I may need your help. This is a poll we would love to do. Let me hit retry. Um, we'll see. What do you think, Sydney? Where we'd love, if it doesn't work, we'll have you throw it in the chat. But when you think of the word nourish or food, like how does it make you feel? How does it make your body feel or your mind? Like, what do you think of when you hear the word food in regards to like a feeling? And you can throw it in the chat, and then Sydney will share, and we can keep moving through the slides. And I can even read. I'm so satisfied, happy, fulfilled, sacred. I love all of this. Um, Health and comfort. These are great memories. Yes. Lots of great memories. Um, so physically, when I think of like how my body feels, like I feel like, oh, my skin glows and I sleep so well when I take out the foods that don't sit well with me. I feel more energized. I feel like I'm not bloated or I'm not in pain. And I can think clearer. And as somebody said, I feel happy. I tell women, and I see women. I also work in an emergency room in the city of Chicago, an OB emergency room, and there's a lot of fear that in healthcare, which with our model and Enrich Health, we're hoping to move away from that. Help empower people. But so much of the time, what I tell people is listen to your body because your body knows best. It's the same thing with food. When we take something in, listen to how your body is responding to it. And it's with anything, like if you're feeling something related to pregnancy, you know better than the doctor or the midwife. Um, so like we said, we eat for nourishment. We need it for fuel and for energy. But we eat too because it tastes great. And we often eat because we're feeling anxious or we're really tired or we're bored. Most of the time when people eat, it is not because they're hungry. It's more from an emotional place. And I'm sure we can all relate to this. I've often gone from couch to kitchen on a very tiring day, multiple times. Um, so what's important here is that all this food comes through our gut, and in integrative medicine, the gut is really like at the center of everything. Like we are not healthy unless our gut is healthy. Um, and this is a little tidbit. Some of you may know this, but over 90% of serotonin is actually made in our guts. These are all of kind of our happy hormones, but that's important because if our gut isn't healthy, it can't effectively make serotonin. So this is a busy slide and you'll have access to this. This is not for you to hear me repeat all of this, but it's to really just give a little overview of why our gut is so important. So the gut to me is the integrative like organ in our body. It integrates from what's outside to what happens inside. And the way we're able to process everything that comes in is the trillions of bugs, so bacteria, viruses, and fungi that live in our gut. And this is the microbiome. It's feel like it's a big thing all over the internet. And the most important thing is that this microbiome is balanced. And how do we balance it is we feed it well because the bacteria is what is helping break down the food, helping us make vitamins and nutrients, which we'll talk more about. Short chain fatty acids are from fats. Like these fuel us and fight infection, fight cancer. They protect us from invaders. They help with our immune system. And a lot of autoimmune diseases, sometimes we can trace to kind of a breakdown in that barrier in our gut. And they're a big detoxer. They get rid of all the toxins. Not all, but a lot of them. You know, we think of when we say gut is central in integrative medicine, it's that it really is a second brain. It communicates with the rest of our body as much as our brain up here in our head. It has its own nervous system, immune system. It's got everything right there. And as you know, it makes a lot of our hormones and that impact our mood and our thinking. Well, I'm very sad ours don't work. So, but that's okay. We have a few we're going to have you do throw in the chat, but how do we know our gut is healthy? You can throw it in the chat. Like, how do you know? Like, what is your body telling you when your gut is healthy? If you want to take a second and throw it in the chat, and I'll pull it up so we can see. Yes, that's right.
Regular bowel
Love
movements.
it.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. Mental clarity, that's great.
I apologize if I say this wrong, but Diane says um, that they feel more energized and happier involving doing a fast recently
Oh
with
my
and cutting out caffeine and things like that.
God. It's amazing when you take on these different. I'm actually doing a cleanse right now. And it's like, whoa, even though I crave things, I just feel healthier.
And
So
Feline says relax, and I completely
yeah,
agree with that.
yeah, me too. So the best way to tell, as many of you said, is how are your bowel movements? I would say over probably close to 30 years now practicing, I would say one of the most common complaints women come to see me for, especially in pregnancy, is they're constipated. So, are you going regularly? The Bristol scale is great to see what your stool looks like because that's your best indicator if it's a healthy bowel movement. But do you go regularly? Which honestly should be every day. When people say, "Oh, I go every 3 to 4 days, but that's normal for me," it's typically your gut isn't healthy. You're just not having some of those other symptoms. Um, and then what does the stool look like? And then are you bloated? Do you have a ton of gas? Gas is normal, an excessive amount, which most people know, you and people around you, is usually that you're out of balance. Um, so these are I'm throwing these out there and we'll kind of just go through. You can type in or not, but I'm just going to go through them. So we are taking in so much every day. What is healthy and what isn't? So antibiotics, good, bad, or could it be both? Um, Antibiotics for other causes. There are some antibiotics we will use to treat, for example, SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which can do herbal antibiotics as well, but or like a parasite. But antibiotics will cause imbalance in our gut. Um, and when that happens, when things are out of balance, we can't digest as well. So that throws everything off. And then it can start to impact, just the health of the gut lining. Um, and the antibiotics are absolutely needed for certain things. But I will tell you, in studies, they have shown that 40% of antibiotics are prescribed for a non-bacterial infection. The biggest one is upper respiratory infections, which are almost always viral. So we don't want antibiotics for those. But yeah, many people are prescribed them. So stress actually is in the long term, stress is also good, but when we have chronic stress, it's harmful because the cortisol, which is released, which is one of the hormones I mentioned, impacts the gut. It decreases blood flow. It just throws everything off. Breathing has the opposite effect because it stimulates our vagus nerve. So does laughter, so does smiling, and it helps to relax the gut. So our vagus nerve is our rest and digest nerve, and we want to always find ways of like, you know, in response to stress, to being able to calm ourselves. And we'll talk about that at a later session. Fermented foods are good because they're like good, healthy bacteria, and they help keep that healthy bacteria robust in your gut. And then fiber is fabulous. We're going to go over fiber because it's Sydney and my favorite, and I think Marie's too. And then sugar, no, sugar throws off the gut. It feeds the bad bacteria. So, um, yes, it's all I eat sugar. We're all going to eat sugar, and I'm talking more the simple sugars, and we'll go over this as well. But when we're eating a lot of sugars, it throws off our gut. So how do I tell if my food is real? And this is a huge thing. Like we hear process this, process that. I mean, in a really simple way, and you'll get this. Processed foods is if you take any food and change it from its original form. So you can chop something up and it's processed. That is minimally processed. That is completely healthy, right? You can take the shelves off something and you've changed it, right? The next level up is you add some ingredients like salt, water, oil. Again, many of these foods are still healthy. It's really your ultra processed foods that we want to be aware of, that we want to minimize. That's when we're putting in preservatives, the hydrogenated oils like your trans fats, a lot of sugar, especially like your high fructose corn syrup, your coloring, like all that added flavor, added even natural flavors, those many times are additives that our body doesn't quite know what to do with. So if we look here, again, you can throw it in the chat. Like if it comes from the ground, you know, the oceans, soil, trees, real, not real. And anybody can throw it in if we even get one here and there if you want to see Sydney. And then ingredients that you have a hard time reading, which I'm a big fan of reading ingredients, and I'll often look and see is it five or less. Five or less, pretty good that it's just minimally processed. When we add colors to it, this you could say there are colors you can add, natural colors like turmeric, like some of the spices, beet juice, like some things will naturally color something, but the other colors and the dyes, not great. And then the added flavors, like I said. So packaged again is processed, but it could still be minimally processed, but a lot of the packaged foods are more ultra processed. So why is this so important? So when we talk about diet, if we simply focused on sticking with real foods, you're going to overall have a healthy diet. So when we eat the real foods, they give us energy. And real foods are what are giving us our nutrients, which help in cell growth and repair, helps us to fight infections, and it supports our mood because it's feeding our gut to make sure we're making enough of our happy hormones. And again, it makes our gut work properly. So it's nice and healthy and it can do the work for us to bring in those nutrients. So when we take in a chemical like a pesticide, our body doesn't know what to do with it. So a lot of times it can get absorbed through our gut into our bloodstream, and it can cause inflammation. It can trigger some autoimmune problems, and it can actually be stored in fat because the body doesn't know what to do with it. and then it's hard to break down those fats. So this is the weeds. But big picture, food is basically made of nutrients. Okay. And nutrients are divided into two categories. You have your micronutrients and your macronutrients. And so this food nutrient and then micro and macro. So our micro is our vitamins and minerals. So think, and I'm going to go into this. The minerals come from the soil and water, and vitamins come from plants and animals. Our body can make some vitamins, but not many. So when we say essential, it's essential because we can't make things. We have to get them from outside of us. And then the macro is our proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. So we'll go back to the micros. We're going to talk about vitamins and minerals. So vitamins, you're all familiar with the vitamins we see, vitamin supplements we see on the shelves, vitamins we hear we're deficient in. Um, Vitamins help us to metabolize things and give us energy. They work at a cellular level, and they mostly come from food, so plants and animals, because our body can't make them. A few are made by our body, like vitamin K in our gut from the bacteria and B7. Vitamin D, we basically get from our body, but it's the sun that activates an enzyme in our skin that then helps to break down a substance into vitamin D, ultimately made in the liver. Um, this is a slide you'll have. This is just to see, these are all the vitamins and how they impact our bodies. Your most prenatal vitamins, there's so many in the market, have all the essential vitamins and minerals that you need. I'm going to talk about a few in particular. Oops. This is a big one. And the reason I want to focus on this is because most of us are deficient in vitamin D. And that is because um, we are not getting out in the sun enough. A lot of us are inside and we're lathering on suntan lotion, which actually then stops vitamin D from being made. You can get some vitamin D from food, like in a fatty fish or an egg yolk, but most of it comes from the sun. And vitamin D we're seeing is I mean we know it's good for the bones and the teeth, but we're also seeing it's really important in helping to decrease inflammation. And there are many studies out there that say it's possibly linked to preeclampsia and gestational diabetes, and then the offspring of a pregnant woman developing asthma. So vitamin D is really critical. I've looked up lots of different prenatal vitamins. A lot of times it varies. They're in international units from like 400 to 600. I saw one that had 1,000. If you're taking 1,000 a day, even if you're deficient, it'll help boost it unless you're really deficient. So you can get it tested with your doctor. And if not, you can safely take, 800 to 1,000 IUs a day. But it's really important, especially if you're pregnant. Um, so the B's are also super important. They're all important, but B's I like in pregnancy because the two big ones that you're going to hear a lot is folate, like folic acid, which is vitamin B9, and then vitamin B6 is the peroxidine, which a lot of people will use. That's diclegis, like we'll use for nausea and vomiting in pregnancy. So B12 I bring up because that is mostly found in animals. Um, and if you don't eat animals, you can very well be deficient in B12, and it's really important in like cells, like in cell growth, and in particular like red blood cell production. So it's important vitamin. And surprisingly, a lot of people are deficient in this. So folic acid, like we talk about in pregnancy and how important it is to start before, this also is really important in cell production, like red blood cell production in the heart and the nervous system. And when people are deficient, they have a higher risk of babies having a neural tube defect or spina bifida, where the neural tube doesn't fully close. So this is super important. And it's also in all the prenatal vitamins. Sometimes it's folic acid, which is a synthetic type. Some people have a deficiency in an enzyme that has a hard time breaking down folic acid, so they take the folate. And then B6. again, a great vitamin. Immunity, a lot of these you'll see help just with cell growth and immunity. And it's actually good for PMS too, but really great for nausea and vomiting. Lots of great studies with that. Take that with some ginger and you're good. Vitamin C is a great one right now because it's great for immunity and protecting our cells. It also helps with our tissue and repairing the tissue and helping form collagen, which is like your support in between cells and tissue in your body. Um, the beautiful thing about vitamin C is you eat a whole bell pepper, like a small one, or one kiwi, and you get all the vitamin C you need in a day, which is great. It's about 100 milligrams. So it's in your citrus fruits. So, because the idea is try to get all this from food, and then if we need to, you can supplement. Um, so now we're going to look at so we have our nutrients. We're still in our micronutrient little category, and we're going to look at minerals. So minerals are what come from the earth, like the soil and the rocks and the water, and then the foods absorb it, and then we eat them. They're divided in macro and micro. Just macro are ones that we have a ton of in our body, and micro we don't need as much. So the macro are like your calcium, your phosphorus, your magnesium, potassium, sodium. So that is in every cell in our body, and it helps with, I would call it balance. Like you need it for fluid balance in your body. You need it to make energy. They're very critical. And then your micronutrients are like zinc and iodine, selenium, copper, magnesium, fluoride, like fluoride for our teeth. So I'm going to focus on a few because again, with pregnancy. So iodine is big in thyroid and brain development. And we used to have a big problem early 1900s when we didn't have salts that had iodine in it. And we added iodine to fix this problem. So we mostly get our iodine from salt. But you can get it from seaweed. And think about it, seaweed's kind of salty. And then shrimp and tuna, eggs, beans, cheese. But occasionally people are deficient. And we've seen that this has been linked to preterm birth or miscarriage and then developmental delays. And then the big thing is thyroid function, hypothyroid. Luckily, this is also in our prenatal vitamins. Again, why it's important to take your prenatal vitamins. Iron is huge, especially in pregnancy. Um, Iron is basically what prevents us from becoming anemic because it plays a role in our creating our transport, the hemoglobin for oxygen uh, to be delivered around our body. Um, so when we have enough iron, we feel energized. It also supports our immune system. You'll see lots of things support our immune system. So foods again, your meat, your fish, your beans, leafy greens, broccoli. Broccoli's another is a superfood. Like eat broccoli a lot and you'll get a lot of what you need. So anemia too has been linked to preterm birth or low birth weight babies and growth delay. So we absolutely need we need the iron from prenatal vitamins because lots of people don't have enough iron stores, and then there's more of a demand when we're pregnant. So this is one of the essentials in prenatal vitamins. Um, and then zinc, another great mineral right now, especially with cold and flu season, because it's also a great immune booster. Actually helps with wound healing too, and cell growth. Like you'll see a lot of these work the overlapping in what they do. A place for zinc is food-wise, avocados, spinach, seafood, lentils, nuts, whole grains. When you have a cold and you take zinc, like you can buy those zinc lozenges, it can actually lessen the days that you have a cold if you took it throughout the day. If we don't have enough, we can be more susceptible to infections. If you're really deficient, you can lose your hair and lose your sense of taste. So this is one of my favorites, magnesium. I recommend it for so many people. It's really critical for like muscle and nerve function, and It helps to manage blood glucose and also energy. And then again, the workings inside the cell of, DNA, RNA, protein synthesis. So this, even though we can find it in our food, a lot of the soils are deplete of the magnesium. And again, this is a mineral, so it comes from the soil. So we don't sometimes get enough, even if we're eating enough of the foods. And this is again green leafy vegetables, your beans, your nuts, your seeds. So you may feel like you're eating a lot of that, and you could still be deficient in magnesium. So the reason I love magnesium because it is great for sleep. If you are really struggling with sleep, it can really help relax you. It's kind of a calming mineral. And, there are different types, and you'll hear this magnesium glycinate, citrate, oxide, threonate. Glycinate is great for sleep and it doesn't impact the gut. Because if you will see you can take magnesium and it can cause diarrhea. So you have to kind of slowly go up. The citrate will cause diarrhea. And it also is great for muscle cramps. Muscle cramps in pregnancy a lot of times are more of fluid shifts. So it's massage and increasing fluid, but magnesium can help. So choline's another one in pregnancy, and that you'll hear people talk about it because it's great protection for and help with the baby's brain and nervous system. Um, and it's in beef, chicken, liver. So it's harder to get eggs, salmon, broccoli. Um, and if you're deficient in this, again, it can increase the risk of neural tube defects. Not as many people are as deficient in this as like the iron, magnesium. I usually get adequate amounts. And this is in the prenatal vitamin. Um, but that's how much you need. And 450 a day for a pregnant woman, and an egg has 147. I always tell people, I always look up like how much is in, if I want to know how much protein, how much fiber, I Google it, and I have a few pages like this, just to go over what are the different minerals. And then I also have a page of the fiber. Um, so macronutrients, these are your proteins, carbohydrates, and your fats. And these are essential, meaning we need them. We need them in food. And this is our main energy. This is our main energy source, our building blocks, and our protection. So this is a question for you guys. We're going to do a poll, Sydney. Um, Carbohydrates. There's so much debate about carbohydrates. So the very first question is, when you hear of carbohydrates, very first question is, what percent of your diet do you think should be carbohydrates? Are they clicking in the chat, Sydney?
Yeah, it should pop up on everybody's screen.
Okay.
So get your votes in.
I think we've got about
We
half
got,
the responses in. Yeah.
okay.
Okay, if you could share
What's our
the.
winner? I don't know how to show it, do I?
Oh, you guys can't see it on your screen?
No.
No.
Oh, interesting. Okay. It's half and half. Half the group
Oh,
thinks it's
wow.
15%, and then of the group thinks it's 40%, and no one voted for 75%.
Excellent. Okay. So that kind of answers the other questions, like how much do we really need? The answer is actually 40 to 50%. Oh, here we go. Because most of our carbohydrates, I'm going to get into that, is from fruits and vegetables. So, and whole grains. So many people think it should only be 15% because that's what the media is telling us, and that's incorrect. Um, but I think we have a perception of what carbohydrates are, and that impacts how we think of when we think of a carbohydrate. Does it make us feel tired, or does it make us feel energized? If I eat a piece of fruit, I feel energized. So when carbohydrates, so we can break this down again. big picture, but a smaller picture, we have simple carbohydrates and complex. Complex is just a long chain of the single sugars that the simple carbohydrates are made of. So the simple carbohydrates we want to minimize. That's your candies, your syrup, your honey, your soda. Like it's just straight up sugar molecule, glucose, sucrose, lactose. And then complex is a string. And this is where it's super healthy because this is like your starches, and you can read them there, your oatmeal, your bran, your brown rice, and then your fiber. And like I said, fiber is my favorite. So that's your fruits, your vegetables, your legumes, your nuts, your seeds. So fiber is absolutely the superfood. Um, Again, this is not for you to try to figure all this out, but they're soluble and insoluble. It just means that it dissolves in water. They're not very well absorbed, but that helps. It's really does a lot of its action in the gut, helps with the healthy gut bacteria, breaking things down, and then our body absorbing the nutrients and then keeping things moving through the gut. So that's why fiber is so essential because it is really the nutrient for our gut. Um, so there are so many benefits of fiber. It controls blood sugar, it can lower cholesterol, it keeps you feeling full longer so that it can control weight because you don't want to eat more and more. And it's very protective. There's so much data out there that it protects against cancer, like colon cancer, decreases risk of heart disease and diabetes because it balances sugar. So it is the best balancer of your gut, ecosystem microbiome. So this you can have, and I think this is great to have because what I do is like my cleanse now, because I'm saying they're in a cleanse, it's all about fiber. I will just see my sample menu. I'm like, oh wow, I got 15 grams for breakfast, and I'm shooting for 40 or 50 a day. So just use this to reference so you know. And it may vary depending on the site you look, but this is roughly what you're going to find. Um, so fiber is great. I'm going to emphasize it again. It protects us from disease, infections, and inflammation. Inflammation is a big thing. When our body's inflamed, we get more diseases. So if you look across the population, only about 10% of people get enough fiber. I would say the absolute minimum is 25 grams, shoot for 40. When you look back at hunter-gatherers from hundreds of years ago, they ate 100 grams a day. Of course, people were not, they were fighting off just for survival, fighting off disease and animals. So didn't live long, but they had healthy guts up until the end of their lives. So protein is the other big macronutrient. It is truly the workhorse. It supports practically everything our body does because it helps us make the enzymes to break down nutrients. It helps us to make, the molecules for transport, like hemoglobin, helps us to make antibodies. Like it's very important. And most people know it's in fish, nuts, seeds, whole grains, and then in tofu and dairy. So you can get enough fiber if you really focus on it from non-meat sources, and you need about 0.8 grams per your kilogram body weight. These are just other ways the protein works. Um, and it just works throughout the body. And this is another slide you can look at to see how much protein you're getting. That's been a big trend too in older populations, especially women around menopause, to get adequate protein because it helps build muscle mass. So the last one is fat. So um, there are four types of fat. The most important ones are your unsaturated. So your monounsaturated and your polyunsaturated. And these are your omegas that people like the DHA, EPA that people are now taking with their prenatal vitamins. But without taking a supplement, you're getting them from your nuts, seeds, and fish and your cooking oils. And the best one is your olive oil. Your saturated fats you can eat, we just don't want to eat as much of them. And that's like your dairy, your milk and your cheese and your butter, or your more fatty meats. Trans fats are the ones we want to stay away from. This is like your hydrogenated oils. This is in processed and artificial foods. So this was Dr. Weil. He's part of the university where I'm doing more training for integrative medicine. You really just need more of your unsaturated than your saturated. And this gives you like a diagram of the foods that you can find, your omega-3s, your omega-6s, and your mono unsaturated fats. So fats is a big source of energy, and it's also insulating. If you think about it, it insulates our body, right? It can keep us warm and insulates, the nerve lining, all of it. It's throughout the body. Um, Fat is everywhere, and it's good for insulation. And it's part of, and it's in the cell structure. It's actually part of the membrane of the cell, so that helps with things coming in and out of the cell. And like I said, it's many things help in hormone production, so does fat. Um, Good thing to know, I mean, important to know with pregnancy is that it's important for baby's brain and eye and nervous system development. So we need fat. It's not a bad thing. There was a trend back in the 70s and 80s. I think I'm right, Marie, where fat was bad. It was totally bad. Like, so everything was low fat diet, low fat foods. And that's when they started adding a lot of more of like like more of the chemicals and preservatives to give us a different taste that wasn't from fat. So, omega-3s during pregnancy are critical, and that's why we started adding them to kind of the regiment of vitamins because, well, one thing, they'll decrease the risk, and there's lots of studies of your baby having asthma or eczema. If you eat a couple servings of fish a week, you're getting a decent amount, but taking a supplement is low risk and it's really great, and it helps to decrease inflammation in the body as well. So spices, I love spices. Spices are great all around. This is a busy slide, and these are just some of my favorite spices, but the thing to look at is they're all anti-inflammatory, the top four. So again, looking up recipes to see how to add it. You can do it's called golden milk at night. You can do a tea with, I do non-dairy milk with turmeric. You can add ginger and cinnamon, and it's very soothing and calming, and it's anti-inflammatory. Helps to balance like your blood sugar. Fenugreek I added because that can help in milk production. And you can make, teas out of these. You can sprinkle them on, food, ground up. And then mint is really good to relax the stomach, but it can cause more heartburn. So if you have a heartburn, you can't I mean, it'll make it worse, but it really soothes the intestinal lining. And then oregano is great. It's in, a lot of Italian dishes, Mexican dishes, and it's like it fights infection. It's a great antibacterial. So we're kind of nearing the end, but like, so when we think about, as you can see, the emphasis really is about getting real foods in your diet. Trying to figure out how many calories to eat. There's, like Weight Watchers calorie counting. To me, like you can shoot for calories. My goal is like shooting for the real foods, and being aware of like higher calorie foods. Like if you ate a bag of almonds today, you're getting tons of calories. It's things in moderation and finding the balance between all the different healthy groups of foods that we are ingesting. But if we look at calories, it's around 2,000 for a woman. And you have to eat more when you're pregnant, and your body will tell you that. You will be hungry if you're not overwhelmed by nausea. So it's about 350 more calories kind of in the middle, and then up to 450 the last trimester. So if you look at the breakdown, the proteins, the carbohydrates, the fats, it is about 40 to 50% of carbohydrates that you need in a day. It's going to be more about 20% for proteins and 20 to 30 for fats. Fiber, I say shoot for 40 grams. So the key here, like the protein I gave you that calculator, 0.8 per kilogram, is look at your proteins on the package, the amount of protein you're getting. Because you'll see you get a decent amount of protein from Greek yogurt. You get a decent amount of protein from almonds. And then you're getting enough protein if you're eating meat. And then the carbohydrates, you eat fruits and vegetables. You're not calculating how many grams. The grams you want to calculate is for the fiber. And you really should eat vegetables throughout the day. the vegetables provide phytonutrients as well, which is the nutrients from the plants, and they're super healthy for us. Um, so the other thing with fruits and vegetables is you should shoot for about 5 to 7 fruits and vegetables a day. I'll tell you, most people get one or two. So even upping that by one. So this is just a sample breakfast that gives you a ton of fiber. Again, I point out the fiber content, but it's also you're getting with the fruits, the phytonutrients, you're getting vitamins, minerals from all the food that's listed here. Um, and you'll have this to look at. And then this is a dinner. There's lots of dinners out there. I gave you the some sites that I like for recipes. You probably have some of your favorites. And I gave you a book that many pregnant women will use for pregnancy called Real Food in Pregnancy. I mean, a resource for it. But this is just with when you cook any type of meat, the spices, like I said, are really critical. Sometimes I'll just Google what's a good spice for salmon or what's a good spice for chicken or whatever you're cooking. Because again, that's so nutritious to add the spices and then it gives it a great flavor. So some people will just do the lemon juice and salt and pepper. I've done paprika. I like the taste of paprika. You can do more Italian style. You can do all sorts of things with it. Um, and then a good salad, steamed broccoli, brown rice, or quinoa. And sample snacks um, during the day. Piece of fruit, have a bowl of fruit, see what's on sale, what's in season, and you can snack on that throughout the day. Nuts are a great snack. Again, you do not need a whole bag, but a handful is great. Um, you could get, a healthy, again, when you're looking at your breads, look at the number of ingredients because the breads are really processed. So if you can find the ingredients and read them and it's very few, that's the bread you go for. But I'll put on avocado, I'll put on hummus on my bread. I'll make a bean dip and put it on the bread. A seed cracker you can do with avocado and tomato. It's a great snack and it's filling, or carrots, anything with hummus. And then to drink, this isn't too exciting, but it's basically your water. You can do the water. You can infuse it like you have the different vegetables in it. Like you can put mostly cucumbers, probably the best, and then different fruits gives it a nice flavor. You can do bubbly water with the different fruits in it as well. Tea is good. There's can be a lot of toxins in the soil where tea comes from. If you can afford it, the organic is probably better. Coffee, there's a lot of debate about coffee, and a lot of people believe there's some benefit to coffee if your gut does well with it. And have a cup a day is fine in pregnancy. Soda is what we want to steer away from because that's your simple carbs. And juices dilute, in smoothies, but again, better to eat the fruit. So the best diets, I'm just throwing these two out there because if you wanted a diet to follow and it's really about eating whole foods, the Mediterranean diet wins out across the board. In integrative medicine, we use it for all sorts of things, lots of inflammatory conditions. It's been shown to greatly reduce heart disease. So that's a big place where it's used, but it is great for everything. Of course, the red wine is non-pregnant. Anti-inflammatory diet is very similar to the Mediterranean diet, but it's just, as I'm emphasizing, whole foods. So how we eat matters. And this is where I'm going to leave you. So who we eat with matters, right? Like if we're having, we're with people that we're having arguments with, and there's a lot of stress in our body that impacts our digestion and where we eat. And that means are we standing up and eating and walking around the house? Are we eating on the go or in the car? Are we eating in front of the TV? Sit at a table and with people you love, or even by yourself who you love. And how fast. This is really important. Like put down your fork in between each bite. Chew it a lot of times and just enjoy the taste and the smell and the feel of the food, and you will have better digestion. And then to remember, are we eating when we're hungry? Or are we eating out of even habit or we're stressed out or bored? And as I've emphasized many times, listen to your body. So this I would love for people to throw in the chat because I think to me, it's really important. I'm a big believer in practicing gratitude and practicing, um, you know, uh, intention, like setting intentions and recognizing what's positive. And we're all doing something right, every one of us, whether it's we had a cup of water today, or, or we resisted some food, or, whatever it may be. I'd love for you to share, like, to just recognize what you are doing right in this moment around food. And you can throw it in the chat. And then Cindy will read them out as they come up.
I put an answer in the chat. For myself, it's hard for me to make sure that I'm eating enough. So I make a very real effort to make sure that I am eating enough because I think that a lot of times we're told not to eat very much and to cut on how much we eat, and that is not always the right thing to do. Sometimes the right thing is to fuel your body. Some others is eating almonds as a snack, eliminating red meat and ultra-processed food, fasting with their church,
Hmm.
picking up foods that have more nutrition in them. That's awesome. Eating more whole foods, eating berries every day. I love that. Drinking water. That's key. That is key. We do not drink enough water. Eating protein and healthy fats at breakfast. Amazing. Working on not skipping meals. I'm in the same boat. I'm definitely in the same boat. Pick
I
foods
wish
that have more.
that was my problem.
Yeah. Whole foods, single ingredients. Being mindful of timing and portions. They're not a big foodie, but they try to take nutrition as their body demands and needs. I think that's awesome. Listening to your body. Increasing protein and water. You gotta do what works best for you. Very
Mhm.
true.
Very
Very
true.
true.
So that
And
is,
somebody else asked what the golden milk was again.
yeah. And I was trying to type that. And I can send it. I can send it
Yeah, yeah.
slides. There's lots of different recipes, but it's basically, um, I do non-dairy milk. So any type, soy, almonds, oat. It's a tea. So I heat that up and I'll buy, because you can find it anywhere, like turmeric root. You can add turmeric powder, but it tastes better with it because you're not getting all the graininess of the ground herb. I'll buy the turmeric root and ginger root and I slice it and add it to the golden milk. And you can do like a thumb size of the root sliced and then sprinkle it with cinnamon. And it's an incredible anti-inflammatory tea. And I'll do it at night just for rest, digest, relaxation, and a little treat for myself. Because it tastes really yummy with with the ginger and the cinnamon in it.
Something
Um,
that if you didn't want to have
it's
it hot, you could also, I found for ginger and for turmeric both, if I freeze it first, it
mm,
helps to bring out more of the juices. So if you wanted to juice it
right.
instead, that is an easy way because if you just juice ginger on your own, you're basically getting like a drop of liquid. So I found that if you freeze it first, it can help, like once it starts thawing a little bit after you freeze it, then it helps get out more of the juices of it. So if you wanted to have it more as a juice, I think that would also give you the same benefits
Yeah,
instead of
very
having
nice.
it hot.
Yeah, because the heat will pull it out, obviously. So, so now we've recognized what we're doing right. We all have obstacles, right? And my big thing is that tiny changes are what matter, right? Like the little things we're doing, it matters. I would say I've I've been on a journey for probably since I was about 30, so 25 years of really like finding ways of eating differently and enjoying it more. And it's been a long journey. Challenges are cost. So it's a big one. So my big thing is, yes, organic is great. Organic is expensive. Unless you can find those stores, like we have some here in Chicago, like Aldi will have some cheap organic If you want to buy organic and it's expensive, you can focus on the Dirty Dozen. In the environmental working group, which I gave a link to, list those Dirty Dozen, and then they have the Clean 15 if you want that. But eating fruit and vegetables, non-organic is better than not eating them at all. So that's a way to help with cost. But when you eat, as Cindy was telling us before, you can actually, when you're eating fruits and vegetables, and grains, it is actually pretty cheap, cheaper than eating out. And it's really, to me, food prepping, buying in bulk, and of course, we need access to the stores to be able to get it. And time is a big thing. And I think food prepping is great when you do it together, because again, it's like kind of accountability. If you have a partner, a friend to do it with. And then it's a huge challenge if you have kids in the home, because if the food is in the house, you want to eat it. I want to eat sweets all the time, and they're in my house because of my kids, because they bring them in. But so that is a challenge. So the best way is to keep it out of the house, but you're going to have it in the house. So keep it far away so you can't see it. And then sometimes you're just too tired to cook. So, and then you give yourself a break and you take a breath. Um, so listen to your gut. Is it happy? Focus on whole real foods. Eat the rainbow. So that means 5 to 7 fruits and vegetables a day. Stay hydrated. For pregnant women, if you're peeing and it's light yellow, you're doing great. You can go, I mean, you can drink your ounces, your kilograms in ounces of water, but or you're going to the bathroom and it's light colored, you're doing well. Don't forget your fiber. Eat slow, chew slow, eat with people you love, and stop when you're 80% full. It's very hard. And then keep moving, because when we move, we digest, and keep breathing, because when we breathe, we digest. Here are the resources. The first two are the apps. I love these. I do it for everything. I do it for my home products. I do it for makeup. It tells you how well it's rated as far as the chemicals in the products. I love it, love it, love it. This book is great. Real Food for Pregnancy. I love Love and Lemons and What's Gabby Cooking. They've got great recipes. And then if you have insurance, this Nourish site, and I did it to try it out. And it was covered 100%, and I have Aetna by my insurance. So it's a great thing to check out if you want a nutrition, consultant. So that is it. Thank you very much. I think we went right up to the time, Marie. We kind of did not a lot of time for questions, but
Yes, we have a perfect amount of
questions.
time for
Okay.
questions. I wanted to bring up a couple of them and then we have some in Q&A as well. Earlier on, Tessia asked two questions. One is for pregnancy, is constipation caused by hormones and kind of how to approach that?
Yeah. So progesterone absolutely slows down your gut. So I did forget to mention that. But yes, absolutely. But if you eat adequate fiber, you will be able to go to the bathroom. So when I have worked with women, that the many, 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 many women, they are not getting anywhere near the fiber that they need. So sometimes you need to add a little more. You can add psyllium husk, which is Metamucil. That will help you go. But start with writing down how much fiber you're getting, because I can almost guarantee it's nowhere near 25 grams. But yeah, the
Mhm.
progesterone slows it. It just makes it more challenging. It's like during your cycle, some people will notice they get more constipated, and that's a hormonal effect. I mean, that's a great question.
One that I wanted to, I think honestly, I could throw in an answer here.
Oh yeah.
This is from Q&A. What type of research would you recommend to use to measure how much protein, fat, etc. that you are consuming? One that is free that I use, I'm a former powerlifter. Um, I used my Fitness Pal. You do not need to use the pro version in order to add things to it and get an idea of it. And you can adjust in the goals what percentage of protein, fat, and carbs that you're trying to get. And it also shows you your fiber. It sets a pretty basic, like 25 grams, but that is what is recommended. So you can also, that's a way of checking your fiber. Like I said, it's free. And I will just put out there as well. I know that it is very hard to track your food and protein and things like that if you feel like, oh, I don't want to see all the calories. So that is kind of something that may hold you back from doing that. And in that case, I would just recommend, as long as you're eating whole foods and eating things with fiber in them, that's a great way of starting, is just making sure that you're more focused on whole foods.
And you can do your own calculation. Like food
Yeah.
diaries are great. Just write it down and you will start to know because you're going to eat similar foods. I
Hmm.
have used, and there's the Nourish app, which I told you about because they have an app, but you have to sign up for them. And then Nutritionix, I just posted. That is free too. Like Sydney said, it calculates your calories too, but you can set them. So you set
Hmm.
it, you say, I want 2,000 calories, and then it'll start telling you when you're getting close. Then I use that. I like that one.
Yes. Um, Another question that came in was their thoughts on protein shakes for new moms.
So I think when you're really struggling to get, I've done protein powders before. I'm thinking that's what you're asking, or collagen. Like sometimes it is a real struggle to get in enough protein. And if you feel like I'm not getting anywhere near enough, I think you got to get clean ones. There's some that it's like four ingredients. Again, I'm all about all these chemicals that they add to everything. You don't want that. But doing a protein shake, absolutely. Because again, it's your building blocks, right?
Hmm.
I mean, it helps to make our enzymes and hormones. So absolutely. I would recommend clean protein.
Somebody else asked a question about tea. How do you make tea with loose leaf? You can boil it just straight into water, but there are also little diffusers or infusers that you can use, like little balls that you put the loose leaf tea into, and then you steep it for 2 or 3 minutes and then take it out. And then that way you're free of
Yeah,
any loose leaves.
right.
Um, the
I
one
have a
another
tiny little
question.
strainer, Sydney. Like I have a
Yes.
tiny one, which is super nice because then I just pour my tea through that.
Yeah. Um, Someone asked about your specific thoughts on the Blue Diamond brand of almonds.
Oh, um, the Blue Diamond brand, again, if you look at the ingredients, it's almonds and salt. From what I recall, I think it
Hmm.
has some oil in it as well. Again, you're looking at the ingredients. A great place to look, there's lots of sites you can, as far as like brands, because I get mine at Trader Joe's. Who knows? But
Hmm.
again, they're probably equivalent to Trader Joe's to many almonds. Um,
Hmm.
and you're eating the almonds, which I think is great. Look at the ingredients. If it's like canola oil, that would be weird, right? Like you'd rather have it in olive oil. But yeah, check that out. And I see somebody
And one
asking
other
about
question.
olace. Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking about coles. I feel like something that I mentioned earlier in the chat that we've talked about, me and Dr. Lee, is that 50% or so of Americans are magnesium deficient, and it's just the way that our food has been processed in the United States. So, if your magnesium is what's holding you back, then also just taking a magnesium supplement or like that might be a better option for you, but
But are
I'll
you
let you
talking
speak on
about,
that.
yeah, so with the collace, is it
Yeah.
Tessia? Is that how you're saying your name?
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that's for constipation. It's not
Hmm.
bad to take it every day, but so for me, it's always, let's get to the root cause. Like all OBs prescribe Colace, and in a way, it kind of drives me batty because I'm like, you're not addressing root cause. We're not getting enough fiber. Taking magnesium is great because we need magnesium and it helps you poop. And you can keep taking the magnesium until the point you actually go to the bathroom. And I would recommend taking magnesium every day over taking Colace. It's not bad per se, but it's not getting at root cause because we want to be able to get you off the Colace, even if you stay on magnesium, because you probably likely need the magnesium. So up your fiber, up the magnesium. Magnesium citrate helps more with going to the bathroom. Magnesium glycinate overall is a great magnesium, doesn't work as well for going to the bathroom. The citrate works better. But
Hmm.
yeah, I would recommend that. And I would look at how much fiber you're getting because my guess is you're just still not getting it. I need minimum 40 to be able to go to the bathroom. Like you may need more. And then you add, I sprinkle a couple tablespoons of flaxseed on lots of stuff, chia seed, and then I'll do psyllium husk, which is a natural kind of way of pulling water into the gut. Okay.
I think that's all of the other questions. Is there any other questions that you guys have that you'd like to put in the chat real quick? I don't think so. Well, oh, okay. Well, I just wanted to say thank you all for being
Yeah,
here.
thank you.
Um, to be clear, this is one of four sessions that we're having with Dr. Lee about different aspects, the whole wellness of whole body. So, our next one is going to be next Thursday, same time, same place. So you can register for the next series, the next part of the series, at the same place that you already signed up for here. So that's the BTM events. I also want to thank Marie, who's been incredible in chat. She is one of the founders of BTM. But thank you all so much for helping be part of
Thank you.
this overall wellness community. And thanks again for presenting, Dr. Lee. We appreciate you. If you have any other questions or additional questions, make sure to contact us. Make sure to reach out. This is not the only time that we're going to see y'all. So thank you all again for
Thank
coming.
you. Have a good night.
Bye. Have a good night.
Bye.